thing I think is worth talking a bit about is just the growth in the ETF market in the US and in the EU.
As it stands today, there are 3,322 ETFs, I guess, as of last week, across roughly 300 different issuers. I think a lot of the perception of the US ETF industry is that it's heavily dominated by obviously the three main players, BlackRock, iShares, and State Street. But what we've noticed in the last couple of years, and it's really been spurred by regulatory changes that occurred in both 2018 and in 2020 that have essentially lowered the barrier to entry for ETFs in the US. This year alone, there's been roughly 475 ETFs launched, with roughly 7 trillion in assets, generating about $11 billion in revenue. So there's a lot of growth that we've already seen, and it's expected to continue.
Look, Europe's, depending on which stat you look at, Europe's probably 3, 5, or 7 years behind the US, but we have exactly that same growth. That's sort of bottom left to top right. I think it's a 20% CAGR we've had for 20 years now or something. When we started Han, I think European assets were about where, the European assets today are about where the US was when we started Han. So that Han was 5 years ago. So that sort of demonstrates it is about 5 years on the AUM. In Europe at the moment, the retail market's been pretty nascent compared to the US market. In the US market, everyone seems to know what an ETF is, have them in their pension plans, their 401k, they talk about them. It's less so in Europe. It's probably more like 10-15%, but that's really starting to grow. So just generally, the ETF market is in the news a lot more than it ever was. And I think people are just really waking up to the fact that ETFs probably are the way forward. It is going to be the wrapper of choice.